Today we'll make a bechamel sauce, and this is just a little white sauce that can be used in a variety of dishes. I'm using the one I'm making today in a dish I make once a year. It's called moussaka, so I want to make it a little bit special, and I'll show you some of the steps that you can skip along the way if you don't want to do all of the steps I'm going to show you, okay? So I need this to be a little bit thick, so I'm using a little more flour than butter. So these are the ingredients. They'll also be below the video if you would like to print them. So I'm going to head out to the container garden where I need to get a couple of bay leaves and some parsley. So here are the ingredients, and I want to go ahead and separate my leaves from my stalk of the parsley. So I'm going to use the leaves in my dish, and I'll use the stalks in my sauce. So I find it easy to make this sauce in a skillet. Now I'm making double the recipe here, so you're going to see a lot of it, but the ingredients that you see listed are for one good sauce, okay? So we'll add our shallots, some cloves, some salt, some white peppercorn, the bay leaves, and the parsley stalks. And I'm just going to heat this on about medium-low until I see it start to steam, and will have a little bubbles around the edges. And I'm just it takes probably about 10 to 15 minutes. I just want to kind of infuse that milk with some flavors. So once it starts to get to that point, I'll go ahead and strain it out. So I went ahead and cleaned the skillet and melted the butter, and now we're going to add the flour. What we're doing here is we're making what's called a roux, and it's going to be a blonde roux, so we don't want to brown it. Okay, we want to keep it nice and light, and we're just going to whisk these two together until they come together nicely. It should take about 2 minutes or 3 minutes depending on how much you have. I'm on about medium-low heat again, and you just want to make sure it's nice and smooth. We're cooking out the flour taste, so it's really important that you make sure that you take your time doing this step. And now we'll just slowly add our warm milk. Don't be scared if it looks a little lumpy right now, because we're slowly adding the milk, and that's what's going to make this nice and smooth, okay? We're not pouring all the milk in at once. So go ahead and whisk it. I really enjoy this little whisk. It's a sauce and gravy whisk, and it helps me make all of my roux nice and smooth. Now, a lot of times when I make this sauce, I skip warming up the milk and infusing it with flavors because I'm just making like mac and cheese or something. So if you get to the point of where you make this a lot, you will probably skip the step as well, okay? So now I'm just going to go ahead and grate in my nutmeg, and we'll give it a quick whisk there. And I felt like it was getting a little bit thick, so I added a little bit more milk. Always try to have a little bit of milk on hand so that you can thin out your sauce in case it's getting too thick. So let's say if you're making mac and cheese, you want that sauce to be a little bit thin so that you can add your cheese, which will make it thicker, okay? So in the case if I'm making mac and cheese, I usually add equal parts of butter and flour, and I'll add a little more milk just to keep it nice and thin. Once it gets to the point where I like the consistency of the sauce, I'll remove it from the heat. Then I'll put in my melting cheese, whatever it is, and then I'll toss in my pasta. And it makes homemade mac and cheese really easy right there on the stovetop. My son does it all the time. I hope you can give this a try. Thanks so much for watching, and y'all have a beautiful day.